Hi friends, this is Nori and welcome to my channel. So have you heard of ancestral healing and inner child healing and all those beautiful healing things on the internet? So today I wanted to talk about specifically how those healing thing works because I've been hearing a lot of that and it just really never clicked in me. But I feel like I have been doing a lot of integration and my experience might actually help some of you. So something that I've noticed and felt sort of abstract and was really hard to understand was that ancestral healing, when you hear, and also inner child healing, when you hear that, basically, yeah, everybody has traumas and you understand that you probably need to work on something, but it's very abstract and you don't know where to start. And something that I've noticed from observing a lot of my friends here in the US, I'm from Japan, so I have one country of origin and one lineage that I have had, my ancestors had. But when I look at a lot of my friends in the US, it's really beautiful that a lot of you have so many different lineages that are mixed. And then something that is very good sign that you have a lot of material to be healed is when you have specific lineage or culture or the country that you feel kind of want to avoid, like unconsciously. I have seen that in many of my friends who like travel the whole world, but then they some reason don't go to specifically, let's say like Scotland or Ireland, or they specifically don't want to go back to like one or Germany, or you know what I'm saying? So those places that you tend to avoid, that's a really good sign that there's obviously a lot of wounds or pain that's associated. Also, it is true in the opposite way. When you feel intense attraction or pull towards this one specific place, then you probably have something that you're ready to integrate, and or some treasure that you're ready to make it into your life, like you're part of, to embrace and make it your part of just life journey and then move on. I saw that in my other friends as well. She specifically was conceived in Greece. Her parents, they're not necessarily from Greece, but then her conception happened there. So she always felt the pull to Greece, and then she went there to see how it's like. And then, yeah, she said that was extremely supportive and then healing experience. So just like that. But for those of you that might be still abstract and not quite sure how to start, I thought that telling you my own experience might actually help to see how this whole thing actually kind of start to begin and then might work. And yeah, I hope that helps. So it's really good to see the pattern of your life. So I feel like that's the first step, is to figure out and see the patterns that you have had for your whole life, basically from the childhood to your young adult stage, and then until now you can sort of live in the specific pattern of your life, unless you're extremely aware and then always kind of steering your life from that aware place, which is amazing. I love that you do that. And a lot of us, like myself, I had a many blind spots. So I created this life story pattern discovery kit, and it is in the description. It's free to download, and it's a really cool tool. I actually used it myself many times to sort of see my patterns of my life, starting from my birth to like you can follow the spiral. It's designed in the spiral form where the spiral starts from the middle, then like it kind of goes out. It's just like from childhood to like until the present time, and also has a section to fill in your parents, your maternal lineage and your paternal lineage, and like your grandparents and how they relate to you. So if you feel like doing that deep work of finding your pattern, it's free to download. So yeah, go find it in the description. That'd be great. So anyways, so the pattern is the first step. That's really cool. Then you will sort of figure out, oh, like my mother's lineage and my father's lineage, then my grandfather's. You don't necessarily have to know it, but I think it's really, really nurturing and kind of supportive for you to find out. For me, I'm from Japan, but still I can sort of trace back the types of lineages, because Japanese people has 3 major genetic ancestors that we have as collective, and I could follow that. Anyways, so ancestral healing and inner child healing is just another layer below, I feel like, of that, like from the pattern to get close to your true nature. And it doesn't really work in a linear way, but this is something that I've been sort of figuring out, is that it's just another layer. It's not your identity, and it's part of your identity, but it's not your true self. But then figuring out your pattern, then your ancestral lineage, then your inner child pattern too, that comes up with that. It just kind of leads to your deepest part, like your soul and your true nature, basically. So it's just a path. So it's really helpful. Now, with my own story, I don't know if that's any interesting, but it might be helpful. And so that I would like to share with you, because it might help you. I have been here in America for the last 2 decades, which is pretty much just a little bit more than half of my life, because I left Japan when I was 19 and I came over here with an excuse to, okay, I'm going to attend the school, but then in the airplane ride out of there thinking I will never come back. And actually I have been doing a lot of kind of digging and figuring out the real reason why I left. So that has been actually the most intense but also beautiful and healing process for myself. And that just so growing up, I always sort of felt out of place. And around 7 or 8, I already knew that I didn't belong there. So I wanted to create some new life just somewhere else. And that was always with me. But then something that I figured out from just sort of reflecting and remembering my childhood, just realized, because I didn't even remember that much. I didn't have much to remember. My body remembers. Like your cells and bodies remember everything. But consciously, I had no memory of my childhood. But as more I do the practices to feel safe and then feel more regulated every day, which in this channel, I would love to start sharing every week, then I started to actually remember a little bits of it, because it's, I guess, safe for me to remember. But what I figured out is that it's raining in the sunshine. What I figured out is that probably when I was just born, I already had the sense that I didn't belong. Okay, it's really sad. That's okay, you don't have to cry. But my parents were like a little historical context, which might help you if you're my generation or somewhere like a little bit few years before or after. But our generation, millennials, our parents were raised by their parents who went through the World War II. And in Japan, that was pretty crazy. I'm pretty sure you have some of your lineages went through some horrible things as well, like Auschwitz or just everywhere. It just sucked, basically. So my grandparents were in Tokyo, and my grandmother of the mother's side, she was left with, I think, at the time, 6 children at her hand, and she had to survive the Tokyo air raid, which is just very famous or infamous. The whole city just got burnt and flattened, and then there's like the people burning on the street, and then all that, just horror, basically. And going through that, it imprints, and then it kind of like a no-brainer that my grandmother was kind of checked out. I would be too. And she didn't have the resources or community for her to be able to integrate what she went through. So she basically abandoned my mother. My mother was born a few years after the war ended. I think 5 years after. But still, my mother was like 8 children, like the youngest of the 8 children. And my grandmother was just not there anymore. Like, I don't even know why she decided to make more babies. I guess it just happens. Anyways, no judgments. I'm grateful because I wouldn't be here. But the thing is, the long lines of daughters being abandoned, then that's what you get too. If your lineage goes that way. So that was my case. And my mother she tried the best she could, but she couldn't really be around. Be present and attuned for me. And she didn't have a lot of tools. So, but what they had was the cult. My grandparents, both sides of my grandparents, joined this cult, which was rapidly growing in the post-war Japan because people didn't have a whole lot of things to hold on to except for each other. So, understandable. I'm grateful that they had again, and they needed a grassroots community of people, whatever the cause is. So that was great. So that's how my mother met, or rather, my mother was arranged by my father's mother because my grandma on father's side, she just really liked my mom. Anyways, my mother and also my father, well, they weren't quite there. So this is something that I had to come to be okay with, and also to accept the fact, okay, I actually didn't get the skin contact or the care or attention or the presence that I needed from my parents. And then before, I used to say, oh, it's just kind of cultural. We don't really hug and stuff. So this is how I used to say to a lot of my American friends. It's like, oh, we don't have a culture of hugging. But I feel like it's not even that true. Yes, Japanese people might not hug like the American people or European people or the Western people do. But at the same time, I hold my kids all the time. And it's absolutely weird for parents to not give their children skin contact. So I had to just I had to accept that, okay, I didn't get that. And with that, I formed this sense of being rejected, and a sense of basically not belonging and not loved and not wanted. And then I'm pretty sure that's exactly how my parents felt. They would not ever voice that, I think. Though last year, when my father came to visit for the first time to America, and then he got to meet my kids for the first time, which was great. he did mention, oh, I don't remember like ever playing with my dad or anything like that. So I was like, oh yeah, it's like there is like a little bits of, realization happening. It's another thing that if you do this work of your ancestral lineage and your inner child healing, for some reason it really ripples out to like 7 generations like back and 7 generations forward. This is something that I heard, and then I guess I don't really know how to prove that or see exactly, but I want to believe that. And I can see that, and I could see that in my dad. Anyways, forward. So that was my new discovery by accepting that, okay, I didn't have enough care and attention and presence from my parents. Therefore, I already had the sense of not wanted, not belonging, and like rejection at the very young age before verbal. So that became like my regular part of everyday life. Then there was this the creation of the inner child that is extremely wounded, who is running my life, but I wasn't quite aware of until very recently. I will tell you that a little bit later. So around when I was 13, my mother fell ill, and she had a terminal breast cancer. Fortunately, she figured out exactly why she got that, which I was so grateful for. I got to witness her going through her sort of dealing with the chemotherapy, and then sort of dealing with her process of facing the death and accepting it, and then also figuring out like why she became so ill at young age, and then leaving her young daughters and her husband, and like I got to witness that. That's cool. So I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity. But so after about a year of her dealing with the cancer cures, she passed, and she figured out that her illness had a lot to do with her anger towards her own mother. And then she told me that, which is very important information. I didn't quite understand because I was 13. But later on, that became very important piece of information for me in order for me to start processing. So at that moment, if any of you have experienced the same loss of your parents, I'm sorry, that is for your loss, and that's hard. So you have my condolences. So anyways, when your mother passes, it's like your very anchor and the root to the earth is like all of a sudden pulled out like this. And that's exactly how I felt. I couldn't really figure out what that lostness felt. But if there's a reason why we call our home the earth, Mother Earth, because the mother is where we come from, and then our mother is like the connection to the earth. Oh, so when you lose your mom, you lose that. Like, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how old you are. I've witnessed many women and men go through that, and then it's hard. Anyways, just topic for another video. But with that, I was like a little balloon on a string that doesn't have any anchor. And at that point, as age 13, I decided that okay, I want to get out of here. I basically didn't feel belonging. I didn't feel like I belonged in Japan. And then because I felt because I felt rejected by both of my parents. Well, my mother abandoned. That's okay. She passed. But that can be taken as abandonment for somebody who lose their mothers. And it's not that my father didn't know. I mean, it's exactly that my father didn't know. But I already felt the sense of rejection from him because he wasn't able to be there for me. So that became, that kind of came out, that manifested as me not feeling like I will be accepted by Japanese men, which is crazy if you think about it. And therefore, all of that combined, within the next few years, I concluded with the best capacity that I had at the moment and of my 2 or 3-year-old inner child. I decided, okay, this country does not like me, and this country's man, they don't want me, and then there is nothing for me here. So that became the reason for me to leave the country, which is crazy because there are many beautiful things about the Japanese culture, but I had to learn that coming out, looking in, basically. Just like I went all the way out and I went to a very different place. I landed in Wyoming of the United States first to go to school. Then I chose that. I dropped my finger with my eyes closed, but then I really loved my choice because I saw that it has the least population, the smallest population of the entire country, has more cows than people. So I was able to get away from people. I love that. And also I needed a lot of the slow healing time, and I needed to connect with the earth, to the nature. So it's exactly what I needed, and I'm grateful. But it has taken basically almost 20 years for me to actually come to realization and then be in a good integration process. And I'm still in the process, and it's still happening. But anyways, the thing that pretty much saved my life after I moved here was rock climbing. And I met someone who was a rock climber. So I started to hanging out with him. Then he introduced me to this whole community of rock climbers. And then in Wyoming, there was like a rock climbing competitions going on statewide. So we got to travel around the state and compete in many different gyms. Then I got to kind of road trip in order to climb and hike and climb the mountains, the western half of the country, which was like a really glorious experience. And I got to do things like camping and climbing and just like pooping in the forest and things like I had never done living in Tokyo. And that has been such immense healing experience. So I'm very grateful. But in that, and all through college I climbed, then I graduated, then I had to decide, and I just kind of decided to visit Guatemala out of, I don't know why, I just kind of wanted to go there. The reason was to go get my yoga teacher certification or something like that. But my friend bailed on me, so I ended up going by myself. And I went there, and teacher training fell apart, didn't work out, I didn't like it. Then I got to meet someone who kind of sort of dragged me out to the cacao shaman's house. It sounds really crazy, but there was this cacao shaman in Guatemala, Lago de Atitlan, and she said, you gotta come sit by this. And I wasn't even that good of a friends with this girl, but I'm grateful that she dragged me out for a cacao ceremony because I was not around any spirituality, and I was raised extremely, which I didn't know at the time, extremely like guarded and then very narrow-minded, like cult. So I wasn't exposed to the very rich culture of the Japanese spirituality my whole life either. I was raised in a cult. And then that actually, I could get kind of mad still, but that's okay. So this girl who was raised in cult in Japan goes to the cacao ceremony in Guatemala that is facilitated by cacao shaman. And yeah, that was a really beautiful experience. But he said, cacao shaman, Mr. Cacao shaman says, you have something that you gave up as a childhood. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it sounds so cliche. But it actually was pretty important. But actually, what he told me later, I realized that it is actually a very important, pertinent information. So again, I'm very grateful for the cacao shaman. Thank you. Anyways, so I moved here eventually after that trip to Arizona because I wanted to get away from the cold Wyoming, cold and windy. I wanted to be somewhere sunny and warm. So I moved with no plans and got a job at a organic restaurant. Then I just started to work. Then I got a job as a chocolate maker somehow. I don't really know how, but I was very grateful because cacao has been one of those things that really helped me with my healing process. And I did that for 12 years or so, making chocolates. Then I had kids. So here I am. It's been like that 20 years of my process. But what really shifted was around 2 years ago when my second kid was born. A little bit after my second was born, it just kind of started to hit me. I all of a sudden became, oh my gosh, like I have to go back to Japan, like out of nowhere. And then I started to be so interested in the culture. And then I started to be so interested in history and then everything else about it, like literally everything. It's just like from the concept of like different concepts of wabi-sabi or like things that a lot of the American friends were interested in that I didn't care about before, all of a sudden started to really speak to me. And it felt literally like the land of Japan was like pulling me through that string, like tagging like that. That was weird. So I'm grateful that I have some of bits of intuition left to be able to hear or feel that. And that, like I called the whisper of a morning star, borrowing from the transurfing terms. But to be able to hear that, and then that can be trained. And that's what this channel is about, using some of the Japanese wisdom. But anyways, I started to really hear that. And then that's when, like, all the experiences of my 20 years, and then looking at the pattern of how I chose the life path, like, all started to actually make sense. And then that's when, like, another layer of that ancestral healing thing that we started talking about, started this video about, sort of started to really happen rapidly. So since that time, about a couple years ago, it has become like my mission to take my family there and like really create my roots there again. Because how I left, like I was saying when my mom passed, like my roots were pulled. Basically, that's what I did to Japan. I left clean. I just sort of stopped communicating with anyone and my father moved and got remarried. So I don't have any childhood home that I grew up in. Like I literally have no trace in Japan except the invisible ones that I still am part of that blood. So, and then there is the true belonging in that. Anyways, from this whole crazy story, thank you for listening, by the way. So, something that I learned is that belonging is already there. When we are born here as humans, wherever you are from, that belonging is already here. But when each individual feel that you don't belong, and I learned that it's an injury to the soul, like it's a moral injury to the soul. So when that happens, we still have to integrate that, and we still have to do the healing process. And then it might take time, it might happen quickly, and then the both are okay. And this was how my journey went. But I want to tell you how this inner child thing became to be, because it was so interesting. It was a few weeks ago. I had just booked the plane ticket to go to Japan. I really decided that, okay, I want to take my family there, but then I feel like I need to go back there by myself first. It has been about 15 years since I went back there last time. And yeah, I don't know how I would feel, because like I was not mom then last time I went back. I was still a college student, and yeah, I had some reason to go back to, like, okay, I'm just gonna go home and make money for summer, something like that. But I had never actually went back in like different seasons except for summer, and to actually be with the family and to actually go feel how the land feels. Like none of those like awareness I didn't have then. So I wanted to do that first before I take my whole family there. So I decided, and I booked the ticket to go in about 3 months from now, which is beautiful. But right after I booked the ticket, then my family and a really good friend of ours, we were all hanging out, and then we were to go to the creek, and we were just hiking to the river, and then it's really weird, but it just kind of came out of my mouth. It's like, yeah, I just like booked a ticket to Japan, and like, yeah, that'd be great if you can just come with me, to this friend who like I already made it very clear to my husband and everybody that I have to do this alone. I have to go back, and I have to do this like sort of going back journey, and then actually going to my mom's grave and like all that stuff. But then this very unconscious like part of myself just came out, yeah, that'd be great if you can just come with me to this friend. And then after I said that, my husband there was like, oh wait, like you are not making any, like what are you saying? Your like behavior is very incongruent to what you said, which is awesome that he said that, because otherwise I wouldn't have known. That's moments like that is seriously uncomfortable for everybody. I feel like that's like a, we call it triggered or activated or dysregulated. But the thing was, I literally didn't understand that I even said that, which was like even more creepy. So yeah, we had the day at the creek, and then like I was sort of like being quiet and driving home, then realized that was like somebody else, or not somebody else, but some different part of myself that literally decided to go onto the driver's seat and kind of take over. Like, then that's very creepy. And at the same time, I just realized, whoa, that part of myself was, I guess, scared that she never knew the belonging and she never felt safe. And then now she has to go back to the country where she has like ran away from. And yeah, I had to get some help from my coach. I have a coach who helped me to integrate those things. But she mentioned, oh, that's your inner child from like, it's probably, she's very small. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was not conscious that she was around. But she showed herself like that because maybe like she's starting to feel safe or ready to be recognized. So that I was able to actually like make acquaintance with my little self who feels fearful of going back to my own home country. And you might have those parts too, who, well, basically that is in the internet. So that is what people call it inner child healing, I believe. But I feel like I hope that my experience kind of makes it more like accessible to you. It's like, yeah, there are many parts in you who are basically guarding your very core self from your wounds or your pain that you experienced. And those are the different parts of the inner child. And basically our job is to parent them all, right? As like a very loving mother or father. So yeah, for myself, once I booked that ticket to go back to Japan, because I feel so ready and I wanted to reconnect, then finally that little girl version of myself decided to just like jump out and show herself. So that was very interesting. And then that's how sort of this whole digging of the deepest, like a deeper, earliest wound picking out began for me. And then it has been quite interesting and sort of, I guess, kind of fun it could be. So yeah, that was a very long story. And thank you for listening to my personal journey. And I hope it helps you starting your own journey of healing. And I know that everybody's on the journey and you probably have started. We're just all in it together. So again, I have created this kit. It's called the Life Story Discovery Kit. And then it is a really good like starting place to figure out your life pattern. And then so that you can actually start to do your ancestral and inner child and all that different layers of your discovery journey. And then that kit is free and you can download it anytime, and then you can use it the way you like. There's an instruction in there too. So the link is in the description. So yeah, go ahead and grab that, and then yeah, so go ahead and grab that for yourself. And yeah, I think that's about. But here on this channel, I would like to share some bits of wisdom that I collected along the way of my own journey, and also a lot of the wisdom that has been passed down from my Japanese ancestors to create more space and create more calm so that you can like easily tune into the whisper of the morning star or your intuition, like your true self speaking, and for you to get more and more aligned, and also to be able to listen to the nature more. So that will be weekly video. I would like to share that with you. And I think it's enough talking for this video, so I will let you go, and thank you so much again for being with me and I will see you next week. It's gonna rain.